So I'm here with Edwin.
Yes.
And I've talked to you a couple times. You've been out there as an activist here in New York for a while, and you've been working on a Dr. West campaign. So talk to us first. Obviously, mainstream media is not focused on ballot measures, ballot access. The Democratic Party, the Republican Party, trying to keep you off the ballot.
Yes.
Tell us about what it's been. You're on 7 ballots now, including North Carolina. You just got enough signatures yesterday. A lot of people on the left are wondering, we love Dr. West, but can he get on, enough ballots to even compete?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, North Carolina is a prime example of how strong we are when we have volunteer strength, people who come out in the droves collecting signatures. To form a new party in North Carolina, you need at least almost 14,000 signatures. We nearly doubled that requirement so that we had the valid amount. So that is a big sign of a strength. That actually puts us on parallel with campaigns that have a lot more money, like the Kennedy campaign, for example. I mean, what we're doing with less funds, grassroots fundraising, and the output that we have is kind of unprecedented, at least in modern political history. And I think that it doesn't just end with states like North Carolina, Utah, where we're also on as an independent, Colorado. I mean, these are big states. We're going to get on battleground states as well. We're going to be on the ballot in Michigan. We're going to be on the ballot in Pennsylvania, Georgia, and we're going to have a serious influence on the outcome of this election.
And obviously the Democratic Party, and particularly President Biden, would really be worried if he got on the ballot in those critical states: Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, the core swing states. Dr. West, I spoke with, he believes you're going to be on the ballot in as many as 40 states by October. Can you talk about your progress in those swing states right now? Do you need more volunteers in those swing states? And what's the progress on ballot access in those swing states?
Well, we could absolutely always use more volunteers, and you can sign up by going to cornelwest2024.com/volunteer. We also have a ballot access map on the website where you can see in each state what the requirement is and how you can get plugged in with our petitioning leads in each state. And I can speak for Michigan, which is what we have our eye set on next. We are on the ground in Michigan, and we're collecting thousands of signatures, and I think that we'll be able to announce that within the next month or so. And I think that's going to really be a paradigm shift in the mainstream media's willingness to accept Dr. West's campaign as serious and viable and as an actual threat to the Biden-Trump establishment.
And you think you might have enough signatures in about a month or so in Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, the deadline is in July, so we are in crunch time, but I do think that we'll be able to surpass. I mean, our goal always is to collect double the amount of what is required so that when we inevitably get challenged, even if signatures get thrown out, which they always do, that we still have the valid amount. And that is definitely going to happen in those battleground states, and that's going to change the course of history.
That was actually my next question, because a lot of people don't realize, I mean, the Democratic Party, they got a multi-million-dollar network of an army of lawyers to try and challenge democracy, to try and challenge if you get on the ballot in Michigan, to try and muddy the waters, throw muck at it. Obviously, you don't have millions of dollars in lawyers, but do you guys have kind of contingency plans for if the DNC comes at you and tries to, basically contest those signatures?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the DNC is going to try whatever tricks they can. They have those army of lawyers. In a worst case scenario, if they find some sort of loophole where they try to kick us off the ballot, I mean, we're still going to pursue him running in those states. It'll just have to be as a write-in. But we're trying to minimize the amount of states in which we're going to do that. And there are lawsuits that are happening around the country, including New York. There was one actually filed today from some Buffalo organizers who challenged the deadline requirement. Now, back before 2020, it only used to be 15,000 signatures. Now it's 45,000 within a 6-week window. That's actually getting challenged and might go to court, and it's very possible that we could see that either the deadline being extended or the signature account requirement being reduced, which would definitely help to our own benefit.
What's your message to folks on the left who love Dr. West, but now that Dr. Jill Stein is in the race, They feel like they're pulling from each other, wanted them to come together. Not for you to, challenge Jill Stein, but why should leftists who want a third-party option vote for Dr. West over Jill Stein?
Well, I think the Justice for All party is personally exciting to me because it is so brand new, and that means that we can actually shape it today in 2024, where the world is very much different than when a lot of the more traditional third parties began years ago. So if you have people, young people particularly from Generation Z like myself, who are the leaders of a new party, you might see a trajectory that might be a lot more accelerated. And I think in New York in particular, I mean, all Dr. West needs is 2% of the vote, and there's a Justice for All party, and local people can run for office here with minimal signatures required. And to me, that's very exciting. Unfortunately, the Greens, they lost their ballot access when Governor Cuomo eliminated it back in 2020, along with many others. And we fight for voter choice. We fight for third-party candidates to be on the ballot. But we feel confident that our Justice for All movement is something that's going to last election cycles beyond 2024.
Frank Richard was rapping earlier, opening the show. Tell me about what kind of has drawn you to Dr. West.
Well, you know what? Dr. West himself is an amazing poet. He's an amazing academic. He's a great thinker. And I remember years ago he introduced me to Lupe Fiasco, which that only kind of opened my mind into music and the sound. And literally that's the root of what we are. If you go back all the way to like Genesis, God said, "Let there be light." And then there was light, and we've even scientifically proven that we collapse a little like air bubble in a vacuum with sound, like a specific vibration. Boom, it creates a spark of light, and we don't know how to scientifically explain that, aside from it's an unknown phenomenon. Yeah.
So you're drawn not just to his policies and politics, but the spiritual nature.
I love how someone's saying something about the genocide that's going on. Like, I would say I would support like Robert F. Kennedy and Dr. West coming together, and maybe even Trump sitting down like a statesperson and actually resolving some of the issues. There's so many problems right now. We need to come together as people with proper decorum and really discuss and solve some of the issues, or else we're just going to stay in the same political cycle that I think Dr. West is hoping to break that narrative, that two-party, even everything is bipartisan. If something is neutral, it's bipartisan. So there's admission of a two-party system, and I think everyone knows that by default anyway.
Hey, Parrish, tell me why you're out here, why you're drawn to Dr. West's message.
Well, me personally, I truly believe that, it's time for a change. And a lot of times, we just give away our votes. We vote because of the way a person look, maybe our color, or we belong to a particular party. But in reality, when you look at the Constitution, what does it say? It says we the people. At no time in the founders of this country did they write, I the government. So therefore, I got to a point now when people look at their agendas, they got their own personal agenda. They no longer think about the people. You heard a man come up here earlier speak about how the school system, how it was free at one time. Right now, you got kids, they're very intelligent, but even the things I went through growing up, we had after school programs. They got cut. So, we got to look at the crime-driven attitudes and crime-driven factors in a lot of the poor communities. It's no mistake that blacks and Latinos in this state make up roughly 26%, but we make up 85% of the prison population, and 70% of that come out of New York City. That's what we know as, we call it boroughs, but it's actually 5 counties out of 62 counties of the whole state. They don't understand about how it's 150 assemblymen and 61 senators are making all these rules and laws and stuff in place. They don't understand the process of bills. They don't understand that. And the only time you ask one of these people when they want to hear about your district, for instance, you ask the majority of people over here today, what district they from? They couldn't tell you. You know why? Because they haven't been programmed to learn these things. But they know it by location. That's why when it goes on the news, they say, oh, this happened in Harlem on such street. So people is programmed that way. But let them want to close down a fire department. They're called by your district, because now you're not getting no more opposition. You know, we need to go back to that, meet the candidate, and make the candidates more accountable to the people, because it's the people first.
Let me ask you, because my cameraman there, John, he's been covering the protests here in New York and D.C., and I'm watching it, and I'm saying, there's your health care, there's your education, there's your parks, there's a goddamn army of police out here. Why do you need 200 police officers out on the streets for a bunch of people marching on, marching in the streets? They don't have guns. They don't have knives. They're wearing keffiyehs, chanting. I mean, it's like an army, and that is where the money for services are. What is your thoughts on that? Because obviously Dr. West for years has talked about police brutality and taking that money to spend on, working people.
Well, first of all, it boils down to control. And when you do a class system, you have to have those that has less and have to strive for that American dream. And you're going to have those that you spoke about earlier. We spoke about those small group of individuals who basically have all the wealth. And Tupac even mentioned about this before. How is it that we can sit there and spend money across seas? I'm not saying we should not help other people, but you must help yourself first. How are we able to send millions and billions of dollars to help other countries, but yet you can't feed the homeless over here? You can't house no one people over here. So I have a problem with that. Just like with the migrants that came in this country, I'm not saying they don't need no assistance, but why is it that the migrants was able to go get housing easily? Even when they went to the shelter system over there, they had better living conditions than the people who lived there for years. Why is it that people can come from other countries and get these services, but if I, as American, was to go to their country, they say, fend for yourself, do your best you can. I'm not getting those services, especially over the people who live there. So like I said again, I'm a humanitarian. I believe that we should help others, but not at the expense of not helping the people that voted you in office and you took an oath to sit there and take care of. It shouldn't be about your agenda. It should be about the people first. Again, the Constitution, we the people.
And what's striking to me is all you hear about from the media, all you hear about is politicians. Democracy is on the line. They say Trump would be a dictator, this and that. But I'm looking around, what kind of democracy do we have if homelessness is up by 12%? 62% of people live paycheck to paycheck. I mean, all over New York City, I don't even know how people could live here. People are getting pushed out of their neighborhoods because all the prices are going up. And basically here, like you said, you're 20 or so % of the population, but you're dominating the prison. That doesn't sound like a very strong democracy to me.
But even with the prison system, that's another thing you have to look at. Even with the prison system, when guys get released from prison, only thing the law requires is that they get $40 in a bus ticket. What is $40 going to do for you? If you don't have family support, the chances is you're going back. This is why the recidivism is the way it is. Like I said again, it's an old saying. There's no money in the cure. If we fix the problem, how do we make money? So the same thing with our communities. It's no mistake that most of the people, like where I'm from, like I said, I grew up in Harlem. And when you look around, a lot of us don't even own the property in which we live in. That's why that dollar going there one time and it's out. It does not stay in the community. But in communities that is flourishing, that money is circulated multiple times within the community. This is what we had to get back to. Taking care of our own. Understand that we're not each other's enemies. Stop being competitive with one another and start sitting there and say, you know what? It's time for us to unify. As the old saying they had in the Quran, and I always like to use it, is that enjoying that which is right and forbid that which is wrong when it threatens any aspect of our growth and development as a nation of people. And that's the attitude we're supposed to have in the community. It's not about white, it's not about black, it's not about Hispanic, it's about what's right. If you live in a community, what is a community? First of all, let's define it. A community is a group of people who share the same services and basically come together for a purpose. Now, what is our purpose? We had to define that purpose. And when we define that purpose, we can act on that purpose. But if we don't know what our purposes are as individuals, how can we know what our purpose is as collective?
What's your name again?
Parrish.
Parrish?
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it,
I
man.
look forward to seeing your thing on.
We're live right now. Go check us out.
And like I said, and I'm on Instagram also as Harlem.Dawn.
Promote yourself. Where can people find you?
I'm Harlem.Dawn. You'll see me on there. I got over 15,000 followers on Instagram.